What if what we call public opinion was just a manufactured narrative that makes it easier to convince people that if their views are different, then there's something wrong with that or there's something wrong with them?
Spending is a tax. As soon as the government spends money, eventually it's a tax. Sometimes we put a direct tax on the people, sometimes we borrow the money, and sometimes we print the money.
Freedom and the dignity of the individual have been more available and assured here than in any other place on earth.
The Patrick Riggins Show. And now your host, Patrick Riggins.
Just too young to care. That's what we're fighting each week here on the Patrick Riggins Show. Too young, too old, too rich, too poor. It doesn't matter. The government will reach out and touch you no matter your age or income level. And therein lies the problem of not caring. The people in government are active every day of the year violating your constitutional rights. If you don't stand up for them, then who will? I can't carry the water by myself for this movement towards more liberty. We all have to work together to get this government turned around. To those who don't care, who say the job is too great, I say you're a quitter. You're not a true American because Americans don't quit until we've reached our goal. Let me get back to that thought in a minute, though. You're listening to the one show on the radio dial constantly fighting for freedom and liberty. Not just for me, not just for you, not just for Americans, but for everyone on this planet, the Patrick Riggins Show. The beacon sending forth our message is the Libertarian Lighthouse Radio Network, and here locally we excite the ether on News Talk 98.7 WOKI. But getting back to my point, that Americans are not quitters, unfortunately we're being taught that quitting is okay, that giving up is okay as long as you get some small morsel in return. Winning isn't the goal, but giving a good effort is. That's BS. When did the government ever settle for less than it wants? Never. But we're supposed to when it wants to limit our freedom yet again. When we have people in Congress fighting for our freedoms, but it involves shutting down the government, well, then they're just supposed to give up their fight. These congressional representatives take an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States. The president does too, but we've already seen he doesn't care a thing about that document nor keeping his promises. But should someone in Congress actually take that oath to heart and try to stop something that's unconstitutional, they're derided and told to sit down and be quiet. Stop making waves. Just let the government do what it wants to do. Doesn't matter whether it's legal or not. And just for future reference, if the power isn't listed in the Constitution, then it isn't legal. We sit out here and we're supposed to just let the government do whatever it wants. Get everything it wants, not put up a fight. But the minute we try to take back some of our freedom, do something against the government's wishes, we're told to stop fighting. Stop making trouble. When are we going to tell the government to stop fighting us? Just look at the recent government shutdown. The whole bureaucracy tried its best to make things as difficult as it could. It fights us every time we ask it to reduce spending. It fights us every time we ask it to bring our soldiers home. It fights us when we complain about this insane war on terror. It fights us tooth and nail on just about every issue, unless it happens to agree with us, which isn't very often at all. Have you stopped to think about all of this lately? Have you thought about how the government is no longer our servant, but our master? That's not how the Constitution says it should work. I know we don't teach this stuff in schools anymore, but you can read it for yourself. Notice that 99% of what our government is doing is not listed as a power, which makes it illegal. Let's say you hire someone to mow your lawn. At first, they take care of it pretty well, and the price is reasonable. But after a few months, the bill starts getting more and more expensive, and the quality of their work goes way down. Would you continue to still use them? That's what happened with our government. Let's say you have a talk with the lawn people, and they say, look, you don't have a choice. You have to use us, and you have to pay our bill, whatever it is. So you say, well, I'll just mow my yard myself. Now, lawn people don't like to hear that, so they'll tell you, well, we'll put you in jail if you do. So you have to use their lawn service, and you have to pay their bill, no matter how expensive. Now, how is that fair? How is that right? That's what the government is doing to you. You have no choice but to give it the money it wants. If you fight it, if you decide, hey, I'm not going to pay, then it will bring people and guns and make you pay. Or they'll take your house and land and sell it and get its money that way. No, would you put up with that? No one would. But here we sit with this exact situation on our hands, and we're told to stop fighting. Stop being a troublemaker. Just let the government be in charge. We even have people supposedly on our side that say this. Just let Obamacare go through. Let it wreck the economy. Put God knows how many people out of work and make health care substandard and more expensive to boot. Yeah, do all that and maybe the government will learn its lesson. But it won't. It never does. Look at all the failed government programs that we have, and they're still around. These people in Washington, well, they're bordering on the psychotic. We have psychotic people representing us in government, and you don't want to bother to do anything about it. You're too busy. You're too tired. In the meantime, the government is going to continue ruining our country, and eventually it will hit you. The only problem is by then it probably will be too late. Real quick, too, this is on my mind because of this weekend. Speaking of this crazy stuff the government does, daylight savings time is this weekend when you set your clocks back an hour. Is it just me, or is this not really ridiculous? The government says we have to change our clocks, and we willingly sit out here and do it. Does this not just seem a little robotic to you? We have electricity. We have lights. We have heat. Why do we need to be adjusting our clocks back and forth? To me, it's almost like a test each year to make sure the population is still staying compliant. It's like a big joke. See, we said change our clocks, and they're actually doing it. What suckers? You may say, but Patrick, it saves energy. No, it doesn't. The United States Bureau of Standards has done multiple studies which show the energy savings are non-existent, nowhere to be found, negligent, or negligible. We're being negligent in letting the government tell us what to do in this way. The savings were so small that it was well within the margin of error. It also wreaks havoc with a lot of people who have difficulty adjusting to the time change for one way or another, either mentally or physically. Yet, we continue to march to the drumbeat of the government. It doesn't matter if there isn't any reason for what we do. Doesn't matter if it's hurting people. Just keep marching to the drum. Keep your head down. Don't make trouble. Don't rock the boat. Don't speak out against Obamacare. Don't speak out against the government. Don't do anything that would separate yourself from the rest of the sheep of the country. If this is how you feel, if this is how you think things should be done, that we should go along to get along, all I've got to say is the Germans from the 1930s and 40s would be so proud of your devotion to the motherland. We're up on the first break here of this hour. Stay with us. Yes, we hear the bell tolling. it's tolling for us if we don't do something. Stay with us, and when we come back, we'll talk a little more about this devotion to all things government. When we come back here on the Patrick Riggins Show on the Libertarian Lighthouse Radio Network.